Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down. Here to Tuesday. It is the Tuesday tune-up, and we're getting ready for a big ConcaChampions final tonight. LAFC and Tigres, late night on FS2 and on 2Day NA. A lot of drama in this one. We'll get into all the different aspects of it, along with MLS rumors, other stuff going on in and around the league, reactions to Gabriel Heinze's press conference yesterday. Would love to hear all of your thoughts on some of the different things he had to say. We'll pick out a few things that jumped out in our opinion from what he had to say. And I guess John has 7 pages of notes.
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of 7 pages of notes, maybe 5. Make sure you're following us on all of your social media platforms at Soccer Down here. John Nelson at OSG Nelson. I'm at Longshoe. This week will be fairly normal, but you never know what else can pop into things on a holiday week. So let's start with the Gabriel Heinze press conference yesterday, John, because I guess a lot of people are giving their reactions to it now. You listened to it. You've probably read some of the transcripts and things that are out there. What, grabbed your attention?
Well, okay, so first and foremost, and this is going in order of the discussion in the press conference. Mm-hmm. My impression of tactics versus philosophy, and let me know if I'm on the right path here. For me, philosophy is something that is 7 days a week. It gets you to game day and is a part of your game day, and it's a part of your season. Tactics to me I get the thought process for me anyways, that tactics are an internal device for the game state itself. Philosophy is more the 24/7, 365 idea, where a tactic is something that is an adjustment to your philosophy in game. Am I off?
It's not so much an adjustment to your philosophy. It's something you do to get a result. Whereas the philosophy is how you play. Those are two different things at the heart of it.
Right. And so that was why I thought that philosophy was more of your 24/7, 365 idea, as opposed to tactics being something that's more game-based and internal.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're maybe narrowing tactics a little too much. I mean, tactics are your formation, in a match, your changes you make to something you do. Like if you decide that the opposition's left back is weak and you're going to focus your attack to run at that person, that's a tactic. The philosophy is bigger. The philosophy is the way you approach the match, the way you approach, not the match, I don't want to confuse people, the way you approach the game as a whole, your whole idea for the way you play. They're two different things. They are not wrapped together. And I thought something that Heinze said yesterday that was very, very important and maybe it is being taken out of context a little bit. And I want to pull the exact quote to make sure I'm catching him right. The question, this was in the Spanish portion of it, the question came in and was asking about foreign managers who have come to MLS, some with success and others not so much. And Heinze was asked, how much do you know about MLS, not just the players, but the rules in its entirety? What are you looking for in terms of results and achievements? This is what Gabriel Heinze said. This is translated, of course, and it's pretty accurate from what I can tell. The word success is far from what one looks for when they start a project. It's the last step and one that very few are able to achieve. That doesn't mean it's been a failure. I look more for the work, the effort, the dedication. That is also success for me. And in terms of results, it's clear that the results keep you in charge, but I'm not going for a result. In this moment, I have many steps first. I know very well the club that I'm at and the magnitude of the club. I'm not looking for the results or success today, like you guys would say, but there are many things to do first, and today we're very far away. Now, I think some took that to say, oh, it's a rebuild. That's not what he's saying. I don't know. Maybe I've just read too much of this stuff. Maybe the way this is being said doesn't get that reaction from me. I don't know. I've seen this idea of rebuild. I don't get that. When you're looking and approaching the game in the way that Gabriel Heinze does, it's a project. Because, I mean, what's a project? You know, do you want to get into word definitions down here? I mean, is that what we're going to do this morning? Like, what's a project? A project is something you're going to build, right? You can't build a soccer team with the idea of winning games. That's it. Because that's not how it works. You can't say, okay, we're going to practice to win the game. Well, what does that mean? How do you create a training session based on winning? You can't. That's impossible. Unless you're Big Sam and you already know what to do and you're not worried about building anything because it's actually not about winning, it's about not losing. But that's why you don't want Big Sam. You want something like this. A project is not a negative term here. A project is, I think the word is used here to give it the importance of, yes, I am building a style of play. I am building a philosophy. I am implementing a way to play the game and approach the way the game is played. Alex Pacine, thank you. And I think some of this is maybe down to translation. Pacine says there's a definite difference between the project and the campaigns. That's it. That's a very good way to put it, because the campaign is about results. The season, the tournament, the competition, it's about the results. It's about winning. It's about qualifying for X, Y, or Z. The project is about your approach to the game, the way you play, the way you see the game. And what Gabriel Heinze is saying in that quote is what he can focus on, what he can control, especially right now where he's never had a training session with this team. He's never been in this league. He's never been in Atlanta yet. What he can control right now is putting together the plan to work. Putting together the plan to put in the work on the training pitch. And his feeling is that if they put in the work, and they get to where he expects them to get through the work, they will be successful. Success isn't always defined by wins and losses. Just like, you know, we've had this conversation about Marcelo Bielsa. We've had this conversation in lots of different ways. You can play well and lose. You can play poorly and win. More often than not, if you play well, you're going to win more. I think that's a fair way to put it. Yeah. If you don't play well, you're not going to win that much. You might get lucky here and there, and luck's a big part of the game. You can say that that's a cop-out, but it's not. It is. I mean, you know, it's just part of sport. It happens. But good teams that put in good work win more, and they make their own luck in a lot of ways. So maybe that quote is being really stripped apart and misconstrued and flipped around. And yes, Modaflow, it only took me 8 minutes to diss Big Sam. That might be a new record. I'll try to do faster next time. Bernd Dursberger, talking about project in that word, says, very normal for a Spanish-speaking manager and players to call signing for a club a project. It doesn't mean a rebuild. It's just the way it's called in Spanish. And that's a really important element here. And I'm a little surprised at the way some people are trying to take this and spin it. It's a little disappointing because I think some people probably know better than that. You know, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't come in, and again, this is the difference. You're trying to build something special. And wasn't that the complaint? Wasn't that what people wanted? They said that wasn't happening under Frank de Boer. They didn't like what was being built. So you have to put in the work to build something better, right? And that's what the manager can control. That's going to be Gabriel Heinze's focus. You know, I mean, the tactics and philosophy, or tactics and positional play, that's a different conversation. And I think here in this country, a lot of times tactics get defined as broader than what they are. Some of it's just down to the way we've always talked about the game, and we need to be better in general. The question at the very beginning was about how much your tactical philosophy and how much it's been influenced by Tata Martino and Marcelo Bielsa. And Heinze's answer was, the first thing that I'd like to say is that I don't call it tactics, but rather positioning of players on the field. And in Spanish, it's juego de posición. And that's a very specific term. It's a little bit more than positioning of players on the field. The philosophy, Heinze says, I think is one learned over time. Many things, talking about himself, many things from many coaches. The most important thing for me to do, or the most important thing for me is to do what one feels and what one is capable to do. I'm far from carrying out another coach's philosophy. I've learned from them, but what one does is what they feel. And that's what's really interesting about Gabriel Heinze is he played for Tata Martino. He played for Marcelo Bielsa. He is a student of the game. One of the main stories around his time when he was really starting to come to the fore in Argentine soccer circles was that he was constantly calling his old teammate, Mikel Arteta, who was on Pep Guardiola's staff at that time, and asking how Guardiola worked, things about training sessions, what he did to work on this, et cetera, et cetera. Guardiola, not far off from the Tata and Bielsa's. That's one reason why Tata ended up at Barcelona, because it wasn't seen as far off. And this leads you into that whole, the juego de posesión, the positioning on the field, that way of playing, that positional style. The people who really created that and started to think about the game in that way was Rinus Michels and Johan Cruyff, the Dutch style, which then came through Barcelona and was filtered one way. It was looked at in other places, like across the Atlantic in Argentina, and interpreted in a different way. But it's all loosely based on itself, and that's what's so fascinating about this, and why the managers you've had in Atlanta do fit a line. And I think it gives you a really good bit of insight into the way that Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra have wanted to build this club. They're different shades of the same ideas. It's all about the ball. It's all about having the ball. It's all about being positioned to keep the ball. The differences on the extreme ends, and Tata's really in the middle of this, in my opinion. On the extreme ends, still about the ball for all of them. They all want the ball. It's about how intense they put in the work to get the ball back. Heinze's team, I think, will be the most intense. De Boer's team was the least intense. Tata's was somewhere in the middle. And then how much do you risk when you have the ball? I think Heinze's team maybe will risk a little bit more because they know they're going to fight to win it back, whereas De Boer's teams were a little bit safer and didn't want to lose it. But all of the ideas of building up possession, working forward as a group, creating numerical superiority with the ball, finding the free man, being able to be in a position to defend up high because your team is connected and not disjointed. All those things are consistent between all three of them. That's what's going to be really interesting to watch, and I hope that it's something we can do. I hope others are going to do it. I have a pretty strong feeling that there's going to be a lot of strong analysis on Gabriel Heinze's Atlanta United teams out of Argentina, because he captured the attention of a lot of people who write and talk about this stuff on a regular basis, first at Argentinos and then at Vélez. I think they're anxious to see what he can do in Atlanta, in a different league, in a different setup. But I'll be very interested to see those differences between the three. What are the possession numbers? What are the defensive action numbers? What are the chance creation numbers, which are a step further? Those kinds of things. It'll be really, really interesting to see, but I thought Heinze was a fascinating character yesterday in terms of what he had to say, and I think he was actually pretty open for an introductory press conference. I mean, yes, he's obviously more comfortable answering questions coming from Spanish than being translated from English, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely understandable. I think he was a little more open in the Spanish portion of it just because it was probably more comfortable for him. I think that'll evolve over time. But he was pretty open. I mean, when he spoke for about 30 minutes, and you've got a transcript that's 6.5 pages. That's a lot. He had a lot to say.
And I want to go to I had 4 points.
Okay.
But in continuing,
sorry, I went on a long tangent there. My bad.
No worries. It's all good because it
Gwen told me to shut up.
Yeah, it links into my second point. It was the last question that he answered, and it was in the Spanish portion.
Okay.
Question was, when you talk of positioning, not tactics, how much time does it take to comprehend the idea, and what are the demands that they will have to expect? That was the question. Heinze answers this way. In the first place, one doesn't impose but propose, and the ones that execute are the players. And I'll repeat it. I don't know the time with certainty. What I know is to get us all in the same boat and start to work. If it takes more or less time, I don't know. But we need a good group of players who are committed and excited about their profession in soccer, and from there start forming a team. We always try to form a competitive team. What matters most to me is being competitive. From there, everything about results and those things, I don't give much analysis, but I want us to be a competitive team.
Yeah.
The idea of, and it's, one doesn't impose but propose. You're proposing your ideas to the players. You're not imposing your will and your idea. You're proposing these ideas to your players that are there with you.
Well, 100%. I mean, you have to get them on board. Yeah. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. It's just impossible. Marcelo Bielsa, and look, there's going to be a lot of comparisons, and I thought Gabriel Heinze was very smart to, stake his own claims. There's influences from Marcelo Bielsa, and there's a lot of things that you're going to hear that are kind of similar, and there's nothing wrong with that. But he is not a clone of Bielsa. I honestly, the more that I dig into it and read into it and study some of the things that he's had to say, he's somewhere between Bielsa and Guardiola, because Guardiola interprets this plan and this idea of playing in a different way, and obviously he would. He grew up at Barcelona as a player. He had the Dutch influence really heavy in him there. He's also studied a manager like Juan Malido, who is another one who has really pushed the positional play idea and pushed it to the extremes. I think Guardiola's been the one who, and this is probably why Heinze has been very interested in him, he's pushed it to the mainstream in a lot of ways with what he has done, obviously, at big clubs, but he's also pushed it into a way that can have a lot of success. Because that's the difference. I mean, the truest form of this is very hard to make work against every opponent, because a lot of times your top teams aren't going to implement it. Now, this is going to be a little different here in Atlanta, because in this league, Atlanta United is a top team, and they're going to play in a very bold way of playing. It's not a safe way. It's a very demanding way of play, and it's going to be exciting to watch, and it's going to be exciting to see develop, but it is a developing thing. It doesn't just, you put in, 3 weeks of work on the training pitch and then you're playing your best soccer. No, it's not how it works. It's constantly building and building and building. And you'll see, if you were able to watch every training session, you would see certain things get repeated consistently throughout the season. You'd see others be introduced specifically for certain kinds of opponents in certain situations. It is a very comprehensive way to play. And it's exciting. It's very, very exciting. But, what he is saying, and I think what he is making clear, echoes a lot of the things that, we've talked about. This is not going to be a simple way. This is not Big Sam, again, walking in the door and saying, oh, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Here's 2 sessions. Here's a sheet of paper. Yep, this is how we play. Because, I mean, the way they want to play and the way that a lot of teams who are in that kind of boat play is, well, let's just put numbers behind the ball. Let's just play direct. Let's try to get some set pieces. Don't try to play out of the back. Yep, that's good. Let's go. And this is not that. This is something that will build on itself over time. This is a project in that way. And again, not a project in the sense of the American negative, like, oh no, that's a rebuild. It's not. It's a project to play in a way that appeals to, of course, Gabriel Heinze and his staff, would appeal to the club because they hired him to implement this, should appeal to the fan base because it's a lot of the things that were being said that they wanted in opposition to what Frank de Boer was showing us from the way he was playing. And I don't think Frank ever got where he wanted to go, and that's, ultimately on him. But this should check all the boxes. But there has to be patience with it because there is no direct timeline. And that's the key that he said in the part that you pulled. He's not saying, like, by May 1st, we will be playing our best. You can't. Right. You can't say that. Like, there's no way to say that. You'd love for it to be effective straight away, and it can be. You'd love for it to not have any dips in form during the season. You hope, but you can't make any guarantees because this is about a philosophy, a style. This is not just about getting a result. Those are 2 separate things.
And then the other part is part that we discussed in the past, but to have it in sentence form about doing due diligence, knowing what you're getting into and all of that, where Heinze said that an analysis was done on all the teams that played in 2020 in the Western and Eastern Conference. And I thought that was, once again, it's part of your due diligence, knowing what you're getting into, but to have that there, to sit there and say, yep, I looked at the entire league, that was something else that stuck with me.
Yeah, I mean, that shouldn't be a shock. I know that was something that jumped out about Tata Martino and the preparation that he put in ahead of meeting with Darren and Carlos. That's just doing your homework and understanding what you're going to play. I'd be really curious to hear like Heinze's thoughts on that. And he'll never give them publicly because he's never going to give that to the opponent in general. But, how different is it for him to look at these opponents versus what he saw in the first division in Argentina in terms of different styles of play, in terms of different potential complications, things he'd have to worry about, stuff like that? That'd be a fascinating conversation to have because MLS, in general has been referred to at times as not being a very tactically diverse league, not having a lot of different philosophies. It's, there's been a lot of the same. I think it's starting to change. I think, you're seeing some managers who are bringing this level of thought into the league and not results managers, but, philosophical managers. But that's a new thing. I mean, that's a very new thing. So I'd be curious to see what he thought about that. Pacine reminds us of the line. I think it's a great one from the question about the timeline to achieve results, your previous point. Yeah. If you know what time will look like 2 months from now in Atlanta, you should be working for NASA.
Yep.
That's brilliant. That's just brilliant. There's no way to know. You put in all the work. You study the opponents. You put in the work for your group. You try to correct things every day. You try to make it better every day. And you keep working. Even when you get good results, you keep working hard. When you get bad results, you continue to work. There's no timeline because look at any top team. What if you want to go into Liverpool with Klopp, you want to go into the Barcelona days with Pep, you want to go into any top team, Bayern last year. Every team has dips in form. And I thought one of the things that Heinze kind of touched on yesterday and that he's touched on at other times in more detail is that you're dealing with human beings. Things happen to human beings that can affect their performance, especially during a global pandemic.
Yes.
I mean, we talked about that with Fernando Meza. His wife and his kids weren't able to come to Atlanta. You've got things at home. You've got things with family members abroad. I mean, things can affect performances. Every team's going to have those ups and downs. If the work is strong behind the scenes, if the ideas are strong, you can overcome that. And even if you have a loss here, you drop points here, you drop points there, you can bounce back quickly. And that's always going to be the mindset.
Yeah, and finishing the NASA quote, it's like the work is day to day. Whatever time is necessary or what the club allows me, I don't put timelines. I know very well where I'm going. The relationship is very good because we have to form a project. And I didn't take the project quote as a complete and total rebuild. I just, I viewed it almost like a house. And sometimes you have to remodel sections of the house. Sometimes it takes a little less to...
No. That's not what it's about. It's not rebuilding anything. It's not. It's not rebuilding a room or part of a house. It's nothing like that. It's building an idea. When you go to school to learn calculus, it's a project, right?
Yeah, it wasn't one I was very good at.
But it was a project because you had to go in and put in the work to learn something. Did you have a timeline on exactly when you would get it?
We're working on like 35 years, so the answer is no.
I mean, it's just, that's a project. Learning something, doing something, not to an end result, because you're putting it on an end result with saying a room, remodeling. It's not a remodel, it's not a rebuild, it's nothing like that. A project doesn't have, in this sense, a stop date. It doesn't have a now it's done date. Those things don't exist. You're constantly learning. You're constantly adding. You get calculus. Great. You're going to move on to the next level. You're going to move on to something else in mathematics. You're going to add more. You're not going to stop if this is your life. For a team, for a manager, for a player, for a soccer club, you don't stop. You don't say, we've mastered it, we got it, we're good.
We're done. Yeah.
We're good. No, you're always constantly adding and learning. Managers who stop learning are unsuccessful managers. Managers who think they know it all and give an interview where they say, this is how you avoid getting relegated. They're not successful managers.
There's a reason that you only have less than 40 games managed in your last 4 gigs.
There's a reason why you've had about 543 different gigs. Because you're not doing a very good job.
Yeah.
Because you think you've already figured it out. The game is always changing, as Awkward says on the Twitch pitch. It's always evolving, and you always have different elements, just like the whole positional play idea. The Dutch, Spanish, okay. Marcelo Bielsa, across the ocean, in Rosario. All of his VHS tapes, maybe Betamax, I don't know. Studying all of it, going into great detail to try to figure it out and interpret it his way. Not from playing in that system like Pep did, but watching it and learning and then taking it out on the training pitch and seeing how he can recreate it from scratch. It's taken on a different form with him. But there are a lot of similarities. You can watch the two, and there's a lot of things that you're like, yep, those are consistent. Yep, those are consistent. The extreme width, for example. The best explanation I have ever seen on that is the interview that Thierry Henry gave on Sky Sports, where he talks about how hard that was for him at first. And he said that Guardiola said his job, the manager's job, was to get them to the final third, and they had to play this way to get to the final third. That was the job. Once they got into the final third, you can play.
Mm-hmm.
You can do what you want. It's the player's job to finish it off. Guardiola's job was to get them there, player's job to finish it off. To get there properly, Guardiola demanded that his wingers stayed extremely wide. And we've talked about it, and we'll continue to talk about it, because there will be people who will see that and say, well, why is he standing on the other touchline? He's not getting the ball. He's not doing anything. Well, when you look at the way the play evolves, he might not do anything. He could be one of the most important players on the field by not doing anything.
Yeah.
Because he's stretching the opposition. A player like Pedro at Barca, legend at Barca, I think that's fair. Elsewhere, not so much. He's been good, but he fit the Barca system so well because he understood it inside and out. And he had the patience. Stay wide. Stay wide. I know the play's over there. I know I really want to get involved. I want to get the ball. Stay wide. Stay wide. Stay wide. Stay wide. Heinze's teams do that. Guardiola's teams do that a lot. Bielsa's teams do that a lot. They're all coming from similar places. So it's going to be a blast. There's going to be a lot of theory. There's going to be a lot of studying and watching this play out and isolating elements of it and picking up new and little things, because we have never had a manager who thinks about the game in these ways in this city to this degree, and that's including Tata Martino. Heinze goes very, very deep in the theory and the philosophy of the game. And I don't think we've ever had it in the league. I don't know if we've ever had it in the country, to be perfectly honest. It is very forward-thinking. It is very exciting. And it is a very bold move for the club to bring in Gabriel Heinze and start to break this down.
Yeah, those were the points that I pulled from listening to the presser yesterday and then going back and reading the transcript to double check what I'd heard. And so that's what I ended up with on the legal pad this morning.
Yeah. I was trying to think if there was anything else that jumped out. He said that the reports on Fernando Gago and Javier Mascherano were false. Both he and Carlos Bocanegra said that they already have their group. All is done. All is buttoned up, I think was Carlos's line. Should be announced probably sometime next week was the idea there. Heinze was asked about Agustin Almendra, who is training at Boca Juniors, said that he's a known player, but there's a manager and a president who are involved in that side of it. I think, again, some took some of the comments that he made as he'll be more involved on player acquisition. I mean, he says right there, like, that's not me. So he will give his input because he puts a lot of time and thought into it, but he doesn't make those deals. The front office makes those deals. Almendra will be a fascinating one to see what happens with him. I just don't know where his mind is right now, to be honest. I don't know where his head is. Having not played in a year, can he get back to form quickly? Is he going to need a whole lot of time? Are you ready to invest a lot in a player who hasn't played since November of 2019? It's a big ask. He's got the capabilities. He's got the characteristics to do really, really well with it. One thing he said about the team and analyzing the group that he has to work with, he said, I've seen a young team, a team with a great will, and players with characteristics that goes with the way one thinks. And, of course, I've done an analysis of what I think the team is missing in terms of players who could come, and all of that is on the table and being worked on. That's what, managers do. You study what you have or what you're walking into. That's going to help you make the decision on taking the job or not. So he likes the roster enough to say, I can work with this. And he doesn't say a team with a great will by accident. That goes back to that convincing. That goes back to the asking of, this is how we're going to play. I need you to do this. I need you to do this. He feels like he has a team that can do the things he is asking them to do. And then, he's looking at things that they're missing, and he's going to make suggestions. So I like where it stands. We learned that preseason will start on January 25th. That has been approved by MLS, it sounded like, from the way Carlos Bocanegra explained it. Sounded like that was a pretty recent development, too. So about a week later than it was this past year, He talked about the reasons why he came to Atlanta and why it was the next step. He said it's the analysis that they did. Feel like we can help Atlanta United, and I'm basing that on the analysis and the way that Carlos and the president expressed things to me, and also for the structure that the club has to be able to do work seriously. Talked about the young players, analyzing the academy. He wants to bring academy players into training. That's going to be a development that's been happening, but maybe taken to the next step of incorporating more young players into not just a roster, not just a homegrown situation, not just a training situation, but as a part of the working group on a regular basis. Does that mean a George Campbell might end up getting more time? Well, if the progress is there, I think he'll play. But it's all about the quality and getting what he is trying to bring across to the team. If players get it, I don't think he's going to be looking at their birth certificate to see when they were born and say, nope, you can't play, you're too young. If you can play, you can play. Shiva says, what do you think his number one goal will be in year one to accomplish the idea of the way he wants to play? He doesn't set goals based off results. I know that's a very common way of setting goals of, well, we're going to win this trophy or we're going to be in the final four of this competition or whatever. I think for him, it's going to be instilling the way of play. I think that's going to be the number one goal every year, all the time, is instilling the way that they play and continuing to enhance and develop it. Results, you can't set your goals around them, because then you could say, and this is the thing that teams can get into, and this is something that Heinze's talked about, this is something Bielsa's talked about, it's something Guardiola's talked about. I mean, most managers who think in this way have talked in this kind of conversation before. When you start to question the way you play based off of a result, you're doing the wrong thing. Let's go to Leeds. They lost 6-2 to Manchester United. People called Marcelo Bielsa naive. It's the opposite. Because when you go in with this much thought and preparation and analysis and work into playing a certain way, if you question it based off a bad day at the office, you don't really believe in it then, do you?
Nope.
You can't. You have to double down. And that was something Bielsa talked about after I think it was after the first championship or after the first great run he had at Newell's when he was a very young manager. He almost had a breakdown, essentially, because the results started to get away from him, and they went on a bad run of games, and he started to question everything. And he kind of came up with a resolve of, no, we need to go even more into the direction that we are going in. We need to go deeper, even further into playing this way. Not run away from it because we have some bad results. You can't think that way. So it's always going to be based around the way that they play. You're going to hear a whole lot more from Gabriel Heinze about the way they play than what the result was. That's going to be a big adjustment for the conversation around the team, because he's not going to dig into, well, this thing happened and this is why we lost, or this is why we won, or this is why we drew. It's going to be a lot of the big picture. And that, again, it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be different. I hope people are willing to think a little differently about the game based off of this. I'm excited.
To that point, he addressed it in the presser, and he said, in terms of results, it's clear that the results keep you in charge, but I'm not going for a result. In this moment, I have many steps first. I know very well the club that I'm at and the magnitude of the club. I'm not looking for the results or success today like you guys would say, but there are many things to do first, and today we're very far away.
What do we have on the Twitters about Senor Heinze?
We have some things. Tafka's in this morning. And Tafka says, one, as I said, the incredible amount of time that both parties took to evaluate and judge this hiring is incredibly encouraging. Two, Heinze's effort to evaluate practically every player in the Atlanta United system, academy included, is impressive and fantastic. 3, excited to hear that targeted players already have offers in front of them, shows that parties are working together already. And 4, let's get to work.
They've been working. That's the thing. I hope people understand that this is a process. Doing these kinds of things are a process. You can go for quick fixes. You can go for simple fixes. You can, go for the Big Sam kind of move. Or you can try to do it the right way and try to trust in your beliefs. And that's why I do think that everything Atlanta United has done in the way that they've built this club has a plan. You can see it. These 3 managers have connections in the way they see the game. They have differences, but they have a strong connection. It's not going from, Big Sam to Bielsa. You can't do that kind of thing. There is an Atlanta United way that is evolving here, and it's pretty fun to see. Tesco on the Twitch pitch said, "How long did Frank say it takes to implement a new system? 6 months?"
6 months.
And that was what he said. Heinze is not going to give you that. He is not going to put a 6 month on it. He's going to say, we got to work. We got to put in the work. And if the performance is bad and the result is good, he'll tell you the performance was bad. And if the performance was good and the result was bad, he'll tell you the performance was good. He's looking at the big picture. But there's not always a timeline on it. Even that, I understand that mentality because everybody's asking. Everybody's trying to get you to put I have a 6 month plan. They're trying to get something like that. Heinze's not going to give you that. He won't. It's not 6 months. It is constant work to be better and to implement a system because it always has new wrinkles, new layers, always has new things affecting it. Your left winger gets hurt. Okay, you got to adjust things. You're playing a team that's really good on the right side. Okay, you got to adjust things. You got to be ready to deal with that.
Since you mentioned Big Sam, I'll go ahead and put this in here from Nathan Pugh this morning. He wants to know if Big Sam is your Freddy Krueger. You seem to mention him like he's a dream demon wearing an oversized sweater smothered with gravy, chasing you down a back alley.
Because he makes it really easy to not enjoy a game that we should all enjoy.
Yep.
He makes it very easy to be upset with the way you just spent your last 90 minutes. And he keeps getting opportunities, and that's what frustrates me. He's also a very easy punchline, too, and it's something that I think people get. So that's why I do use it a lot. We can go Harry Redknapp if you want. We can go into a few different people if you want.
Roy Hodgson, Harry Redknapp.
Sure, there's a bunch of them. Steve Bruce. We can go on and on with
Pardew, Hughes. Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. But Big Sam is maybe the easiest, and I that series of comments recently just about this is how you stay up. Well, how about you try to play better soccer and stay up? I know that's crazy. That's a wild theory, but maybe try that. I thought Stuart James had a great point about this. Stuart James, who writes for The Athletic, tweeted after the Leeds-Manchester United game, "Bollocks to pragmatism. I've paid to watch survival football in the Premier League every week, taking a kid along with me and watching our team try to suffocate opponents and sneak a 1-0. It's ish.
Mm-hmm.
Bielsa and Leeds give me some of that." What team was he talking about, by the way?
Oh, Stuart James?
Yeah. What team was he talking about that was ish?
Oh, I hope it's West Brom.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Who's he talking about?
Swansea, December 2017. Who was in charge of your Swansea team at that point?
Oh, God. Was that Brendan?
Brendan doesn't play that way.
God, it's 2017.
Come on now, John. God, Brendan actually tries to play. I'll give Brendan Rodgers as Nathan pointed out, because I think we lumped him in with English yesterday, the Northern Irishman, Brendan Rodgers. He tries to play. I got no qualms with Brendan Rodgers.
But I can't remember who it was that was survivalist. Who was it?
I don't know. I'm asking you. You're the Swansea guy. Anyway, it was crap. And Stuart James's piece about this at the Athletic is a fun one to read. I definitely recommend it. Keep banging on that keyboard. Maybe you'll come up with the name.
I am.
Gary Neville said about the Leeds performance, and Gary Neville loves what Leeds is doing. He said, this team, I don't know what they are. They just basically think they can take on every single other opponent one for one. It's a training session that we used to do as kids for fitness mainly, but never as a style. It's brilliant. It's brilliant to watch. That's dumbing it down a little too much. Like, that's not the style. They are creating the 1v1 situations or 2v2 situations, or even better, 2v1s or 3v2s. You're always trying to have the free man. Neville said they're all brave on the ball. They all take the ball. They pass to each other even when they're marked. They all make angles. They never shirk responsibility. Every single one of them. That's why I like them. They're a courageous team. Leeds have double Arsenal's goal tally this season, 3 times as many as Burnley. Yes, they've conceded more goals than anybody. But they're playing in a way that is not ish.
No.
To watch.
What was the date from Daniel James?
December 2017.
Yeah, that was the end of Paul Clement. That was ish.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Because what were they trying to do? Stay up.
Stay.
And then the flip side, when you get into the idea of, well, this is all nice and everything, but, what if it doesn't work and they go down? Well, here's an element to keep in mind. Of the 86 teams that have been promoted to the top flight since the formation of the Premier League in 1992, 86 teams, only 11 have won more games than Leeds 5 at this stage of their first season back, 13%. They are going for it, and they're not playing ish.
Wouldn't you? I mean, honestly, wouldn't you rather if this is gonna for me, and it gives me a headache to think about it. It's like, wouldn't you rather go down fighting instead of go down like Big Sam, or try to survive like Big Sam?
But that is a defeatist attitude, and I'll tell you why. Because you're assuming you're going down either way. No, that's not what this is. No, that's not what this is. And that's a really important element, because I've heard that argument. It's not the argument that it's just, well, let's entertain because, we're screwed anyway. Let's just be entertaining because that's enough. No, it's a style and it's a system that will bring success. There is an element of not playing scared to it, yeah. Right. But it's not about, well, we're just going to go down, so let's just play our game. That's not it.
What I was getting at was, you do you, and the results will be what they are, instead of being afraid of being, afraid of being relegated, and just trust in your process, trust in your system, trust in who you are, with the confidence that if you do what you, like Patrick Bamford said, after the loss to Manchester United, if we do what the coach tells us to do, and we do it the right way each and every time, we will win games. That confidence is there for Leeds and their players. So you will have success. That's that mindset that's there, instead of, okay, let's just be exciting and, and damn the torpedoes and we're going to go down anyway. No, it's a difference where you're treating your confidence as a positive instead of treating your style of play as, okay, let's just, throw it against the wall and see what happens. If we go down, we go down. No, there's a confidence that's at Leeds that isn't in other places.
But there's also some that, I don't think you're intentionally doing it here, but you don't just happen upon playing a way like this. You don't just happen upon scoring a bunch of goals compared to other teams. No, it's work. It's a whole lot of work. It's a project, you could say.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to get there. And the attacking part's the hardest part of it. And as we've talked about with Velez, maybe they haven't had the pieces at times to score as many goals as the play should deserve. under Gabriel Heinze. Well, he's going to have some different pieces here. He's got some good attacking pieces to work with, so goals should be there for him. But it's not going to happen overnight. That's the hardest part of it, because that's the part that it is very hard to regiment. You can teach how to defend. You can teach how to work as a line of four or in a midfield, trio essentially. You can put in the work there. You can put in work to refine technique. You can put in work on how to close players down. You can do that. It's a lot harder to put in work on how to score goals. You can do drills, you can do things, and you will, and you will try to refine it, but you can't replicate pressure. You can't replicate what a defense is going to do against you. You can't always replicate, what a player like a Pity Martinez or Ezequiel Barco or Lucas Delarayan or Juan Ramon Riquelme or, somebody who sees the game differently. You can't always replicate that and prepare for it. You've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be able to improvise in those moments. But the build of everything before that, the work of everything leading up to that, has to be strong to put players in those positions. It's not just an idea of, we'll be entertaining, we'll have fun with it, but we're going to go down, or it's just, we'll just attack and see what happens. No, we're creating something that is bold, that is aggressive, that is not going to play on the back foot, we're going to play on the front foot. And we're going to approach this differently. But the mentality is to play well, and if you do these things, players will have confidence, and you'll get results. Even with lesser talent, you'll get results.
Yeah, no, I was not intentionally phrasing it that way.
No. It's an important distinction, John. I mean, it's not as simple as just saying, we're going to attack. We're going to attack. We're going to try to score some goals. I mean, managers might say that. If that's what they really do, they're probably going to lose a lot of games. There's a lot of work that leads up to it. You've got to have all the underpinnings to make that happen. Like, you can't just be a team that scores a bunch of goals without putting the work in.
Yeah.
And you've got to have that foundation to make it work. So it's a mentality. It's buying in. It goes back to convincing the players of everything that you're doing. That builds the confidence. That gets these types of results. That also gets you bouncing back from bad results. And that's going to be a really important element.
Yep. We are caught up officially on the Twitters. Oh, actually, no. Sorry. Check that.
Okay.
Sorry. One more to catch us up. I knew there was one more. Yeah, I know. Matt Wagner. And he's addressing part of what Doug said in his article yesterday. He goes, so another silly season rumor. Julio Buffarini. What are your thoughts on him as a player, and how about the need to have someone else on the right?
He's a 32-year-old. Boca's not gonna renew his contract. Obviously talented, obviously a ton of experience. Would he fit? Probably with what Heinze wants to do. You've got a couple of pieces there. I don't know if you would bring Buffarini in, keep Escobar, keep Lennon. And then, Buffarini's a right back. He's not going to play on the wing. So, with the way the roster's currently constructed, it would feel like he would be a surplus because you've got 2 senior spots and 2 international slots. I think there's probably more important things to use those for. If other things move around and you can make it work and you want him for cover, it's a great luxury thing to have another player who can step in those positions. But I think you've got other spots you need to use those 2 senior spots for. But we'll see. I mean, he's an experienced veteran, and he would give a little more experience in the back, a little more veteran leadership in the back potentially.
Festival of Stepovers has just popped in, but it is topics that are not based on Gabriel Heinze, so we can hang on to that one for a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to try to clean up the Twitch pitch somewhat quickly, and then we will move on to hour number 2. Jason Nix says, any concerns for non-Spanish-speaking players to pick up what he's putting down? I know Tata spoke some English, but how did he work with non-Spanish speakers on the team? I know strong veteran presence was there for Tata, not so much anymore. But, a guy like Escobar's a veteran here now. A guy like Remedi's a veteran here now because they've been here for a while. So, people are going to look up to them. It doesn't matter about the age to be a veteran. I think the language thing is maybe overdone. And look at a guy like Bielsa. Bielsa went to France and did just fine implementing what he wanted to do. He's went to England and has implemented it just fine. So it can be done. You're going to need some translation. Yeah, you're probably going to need some body language to get things done. You're going to need some help from players in the squad. You're probably going to want to have a bilingual coach or at least somebody there on the field helping not just to translate words but to translate feeling. And that's a really important element. It's something that's always stuck with me about Jose Mourinho's early career when he was a translator. That's what a lot of people would derisively call him at Barcelona. He was the translator. He was actually an assistant coach to Bobby Robson. But Robson really liked Mourinho because he didn't just translate it word for word. He gave the feel of what was being said. You're going to need that because that feel is going to be really important. But there's plenty of ways you can overcome that. I don't think that's a big worry. Modiflow is excited about the philosophy. Currently reading Inverting the Pyramid, moving on to Zonal Marking after that. Zonal Marking is a great book. Lots of stuff. That stuff will help. Definitely. There's a really good Bielsa book. I'll look it up here in a minute and pull it up. I read it on Amazon a little ways back. It gives you some good insight into Bielsa's career and development. So I'll find that one and link it into the Twitch pitch and put it on the Discord as well. What else we got that I have not picked up on just yet? Modiflow. But Jason, if you're not achieving a high heart rate 100% of the time, then you are a waste of a player. It's true. It's very true. Jams subscribing with Prime. Awesome. You rock. Thank you. Thanks to all the subscribers on Twitch. Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks to all the Patreon members as well. If you guys have not gotten your invites to Discord, please send me a message and let me know. There will be a lot of Discording tonight during the ConcaChampions final for sure. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what else. Modiflow, and yeah, I'm right here with you. If only Moises Caicedo wasn't going to an absolutely craptastic Manchester United. The absolutely craptastic part's a little mean, but Moises Caicedo we've talked about quite a bit on the show from Independiente del Valle, Marco Lopez Castillo, and Football Bohemio in Ecuador reporting that there's been meetings with Manchester United and Caicedo's representatives. Independiente del Valle want a 20% sell-on clause. United wants to give less than that, probably then Independiente del Valle would want more money. We'll see how that goes. Simon Edwards, who is a great resource covering the South American game for World Football Index, said Caicedo's ready to play for the Manchester United first team. Needs a little time to adapt to become a starter, but if you throw him in tomorrow, he will do just fine. All the technical and physical qualities required. Incredible ability to find space and read the game. Edwards said, honestly, I can't remember such a smart, intuitive 18-year-old footballer. Always available to receive, always knows the pass he hopes to make, plus always has an alternative outlet if the option closes off. Throw in elite athleticism, pace, tenacity, and he's really got the lot. And, of course, he says this, and people are like, oh, no, he can't just step in. This is the Premier League. He can't do that. And it's like, well, he's already a vital piece to Ecuador's national team. He's already got significant South American experience outside of playing in the Ecuadorian League. Yes, he can do that. Stop with the arrogance. If there was a way to get Caicedo, I would be all over it. All over it. DK is asking, what are we calling the new manager? Gabriel, Gabby, El Gringo. Darren likes to call him Gabby.
Carlos did the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, the nickname culture is a big thing. El Gringo maybe doesn't really work as well here. That was a nickname that was big in Argentina for him. Gabriel, I mean, is his name. Gabby, if that's the nickname, I mean, if he's okay with it, then okay. And if everybody's calling him that, I'm guessing he's okay with it, or he just understands that's kind of how things go. It's very common to shorten the first name and add a Y. That's basically how nicknames get created in a lot of these places. Okay.
People didn't call it, but did people call you Shuey when you played?
No. That doesn't even make sense. But see, like, mine doesn't work because, people either, my first name, people would call me Jay at times instead of Jason, or, when my nickname of Longshoe became a thing, like, it'd get shortened to Shoe. Nobody called me Shoey. That doesn't even make any sense. You already shortened the nickname. You're not then adding a Y to it.
And I think that
you're adding to it. That's not shortening it.
On a consonant, I think if it ends on a consonant, you can add the Y. If it ends on a vowel, you can't. Because it doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, like, Johnny is an easy one, but in Stevie. So it's just, you got to feel it out. Gabby works.
Yeah.
Gab would work as well. Both are good. Let's see. What else we got here? Katie Weaver hanging out on the Twitch pitch.
Morning.
People are wondering how you didn't know the coach of Swansea when they were ish.
Because they were ish, and I tried not to watch. There was a long line of ish. I mean, here's your ish.
I like that 4 card says, what does ish mean? And Pacine used the correct emoji.
Yes. So here's your long line of ish. Carlos Carvajal.
Well, let's hold on. What was it before that?
Before ish?
Yes. What was pre-ish in the managerial dugout for Swansea?
Michael Laudrup, Brendan Rodgers, Roberto Martinez, Kenny Jackett.
What was the order of that?
I went in reverse order.
You went in reverse. So it was Rodgers was the last one that was not it.
Laudrup was the last
one. Because Laudrup was really good. I liked how Swansea played under Laudrup.
Yeah, they did not exhibit it. It's just they pulled the trigger on Laudrup and sent him away. And I'm like, what are you people doing?
Yeah, that was dumb. And that shows you how bad decisions can send you into a spiral.
Yes.
Of ish.
Yes. Gary Monk, Guideline, and then the Bob Bradley thing, which still pisses me off.
They should have stuck with it because
they should have.
LAFC does not play like ish.
Mm-mm.
They don't. They play good soccer.
Yeah. So literally your line of ish was Gary Monk, a caretaker, Francesco Guideline, Bradley, which was not ish, and he got screwed. Then you had caretaker, Paul Clement, Leon Britton, who was there for 2 matches off the bench, Carlos Carvajal, Graham Potter, and now you've got Steve Cooper.
The show's turned into like a Beastie Boys edited album at this point.
Yeah.
Some of those names, oh my goodness. It's bad times. Six Gear wants to know whether we think Bielsa stays or leaves after the season. I think he leaves. I don't think it matters about the results. I think he leaves. 3 years, I think he's put everything he can into it. I don't know if he can take it further. I think he'll keep them up this year.
Yeah.
I think they'll continue to play, good football, and I think he will leave and probably look for another challenge. I'd love to see him stay. I'd love to see what he could do if he comes back another year, but I think the way he analyzes it is how much more can he do? What else can he, take them to? Is this the furthest he can take this group to?
Yeah.
Now, I think maybe it is. And somebody else could come in with the same general ideas about the way the game's played and unlock something. Because as great as Bielsa is, he's not perfect. As great as Klopp or Guardiola or any of them, they can't win everything. They can't be the ultimate success and never lose. Somebody else can come in with a clear set of eyes on it and say, let's tweak this. We need somebody in this position, and boom, you unlock things.
Yeah.
So we shall see. I think that is pretty much it. Modiflow, according to sources, $5 million deal for Caicedo to go to Manchester United. Good grief, I would be like, finding that cash and getting it in a bag and taking it to Ecuador and throwing extra on top of it, because that is a steal.
No doubt.
That is a complete and utter steal.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is Sir Bobby Robson, Alex Pacine, correct. So you guys are funny. People are laughing at Shuey, by the way, which they should be. Marshall Voigt asked about the result of LAFC's red card appeal. And Marshall, thank you for subscribing as well.
Yes.
There wasn't one because there really isn't a way to appeal. And CONCACAF said that yesterday. Their rules of competition, the decision on the field stands. So there's no way to actually appeal it. And Bob Bradley said yesterday he wasn't expecting to have a Tuesta. But they will have CONCACAF Champions League going forward. They will have VAR there. They will have VAR in the Gold Cup. VAR will be part of CONCACAF going forward. It's going to cost them Tuesta tonight, and that's a big absence. It's a very big absence for LAFC. Jason Nix wants to know, were you a Bradley guy at Swansea or not?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yep. Wanted to see him succeed on obviously the nationalistic level, to sit there and prove to to folks that, hey, look, an American manager can actually do something here in your league. But he wasn't given the time to do it. Absolutely got screwed over.
Well, did you want him to succeed because he was an American, or did you want him to succeed because he was a good manager for the team?
Both.
Okay. Just checking. I think he's a good manager. I think he's shown that. That whole situation was messed up. A. Simmons wants to know about the George Bellow rumors.
Yeah, as does I Pity the Fool here on
Figured.
Twitter.
We talked about it last night on Soccer Over There. Look, this is coming from an account that launched this month, and I don't think has over 1,000 followers yet. Followers don't mean you're legit, but there's not a lot of traction here, and the way it was presented was sources told this anonymous account that nobody knows who they are.
Sources told me.
Yeah. I'm going to be skeptical of anything framed in that way. I did see some people say, well, that's not where the original thing came from. Well, there's nothing else out there that is public that I have seen. I have not seen anything in German media or in Bild or anywhere in Europe. The first place I've seen anything concrete about this specific rumor, which is beyond like, people are tracking him. Well, duh, every club's tracking him because they're not stupid. They actually do their jobs. This is the first time that there's ever been anything like this to it. Will he go to Europe? Absolutely he'll go to Europe. I could not believe some of the criticisms that people were trying to give on George Bellow this year and saying he should be benched and all. I mean, what in the world? George Bellow is a teenager who was one of the best left backs in Major League Soccer this year, period. Full stop. He will play in Europe. He will be a successful player in Europe. I think he has the potential to be the left back for the U.S. men's national team for a long time. Is it going to happen this year? I don't know. It depends. If the money's right, sure. But I'm not buying this, air quotes, rumor because I don't trust the source. Because it's some anonymous account that just started saying sources told this person. If you're not going to say who you are and what outlet you're with, I don't trust what your sources told you.
Yeah.
It's just how you have to look at it. Is he on the radar of clubs? Absolutely he's on the radar of clubs. He's played in a U17 World Cup. He's been a top left back in this league over a full season. Yeah, he's on the radar. Yeah, there could absolutely be offers. When the offer's right, he'll go to Europe. He'll be successful there, I think, as long as he goes to the right place. He's got all the qualities to be a successful modern left back in the game, no question.
And that particular account now has more than 600 followers.
Why? They're over 600. Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I think that is it on the Twitch pitch. I'm sure there will be plenty more. Everybody is very anxious to see how this one goes. It is time, John, for you to tell us all about our good friend, Steve Apolinsky.
I could do that. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place that you need to have your conversations. Trying not to end a sentence in a preposition. couple different ways that you can do it with Apolinski & Associates, LLC, and have these conversations. You can give them a call, 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve @aa-legal.com, or you can go onto the World Wide Web inside your taskbar, aa-legal.com. Large device or small, hit enter, hit return, hit the arrow key. Whichever function advances you to the homepage for Apolinski & Associates, LLC, and a pop-up window pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. You can have a conversation with the individual at the other end of said pop-up window, 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, for that. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama for wrongful death and serious injury matters, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia for wrongful death and serious injury matters, and that's probably the pop-up window right now. It's Apolinski & Associates, LLC. The website's aa-legal.com.
That's probably Swansea calling you right now.
Fine.
I don't think pop-up windows call you.
You know, that'd be kind of cool if they did, though. Hey, you want to have a conversation? Do you have any questions you have that you need to have answered?
That would not be cool.
Because then you'd have perpetual pop-up windows checking in with you.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Scores are pretty good today.
Okay.
Ragamuffin gave you an 8 for continuing to go through the distraction. Very professional.
J-Dub took having an IFB in your ear.
Well, J-Dub took a point off for the telephone, the 6. You got a 5. You got a 6.5. Ropes with the highest one so far, an 8.5. Thad with a 7.
What did the East German judge give me?
The East German judge today is Nix with a 5. Ricky with a 5.5. Sean with a 6.25. Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Okay.
That might be your best composite score.
Okay. I'll take it.
It might be the best ever. I'll tell you what's not good is FIFA, who filed a complaint on one Sepp Blatter. You might remember him, former head of FIFA. They basically accused him of wasting more than $500 million on a real estate folly. FIFA Media, which is their communications arm, they filed a criminal complaint in connection with the museum project that landed football with a bill of $500 million, and that would be Sepp Blatter's doing. FIFA might want to be careful because they kind of do have their own criminal issues, different ways, different things. This feels like the Spider-Man meme.
You.
Yeah.
No, you.
Is it Infantino and Sepp Blatter just pointing at one another? Is that what we're doing here?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think that is accurate.
Yeah, it feels that way. It's pretty crazy. Okay, tonight, CONCACAF Champions League, LAFC, Tigres. Neither team has ever won the CONCACAF Champions League. Tigres has been close. They haven't gotten it done. LAFC, this is their first final ever in anything. Western Conference final doesn't count. First final where there is a real trophy, not a conference trophy. Let's be clear. Sorry, Western Conference trophy. I know I'm dismissing you in a big way. What's on the line besides the trophy? A spot in the Club World Cup, scheduled to be played February 1st to the 11th, 2021 in Qatar. Of course, bragging rights. This is huge. I mean, this is really exciting tonight. I'm pumped for this. It's 10 o'clock, which, why? Will there be more sirens in Orlando because it's at 10 o'clock? I don't know, possibly. You can watch it on FS2 and on 2Day NA. You can stream it on Fox Sports Go. LAFC is the first MLS team to beat 3 Mexican teams to get here. Now, yes, they had it easier in 2 of those because they did it at a neutral site and didn't have to play games in Mexico. Welcome to 2020. But they've done that. No Edward Atuesta, we talked about that. Ante Razov, 4-game ban for him, the assistant for LAFC. Miguel Herrera, the now former Club America manager, 4 games for him. They added a bonus one for using the walkie-talkie. That's 5. So, Carlos Vela, 5 goals in the tournament. He is the danger man. All of Mexico is terrified of Carlos Vela, and some are saying, well, it took an MLS team to go get a Mexican star to come beat the Mexican teams. I don't think anybody really cares. Bob Bradley said for Carlos, it's special for him to play these teams. He had never played a Mexican team before this tournament. He never played in the first division in Mexico. He was developed at Chivas and went to Arsenal at 16. So these are the first times he's played against Mexican clubs. Bradley talked about how just difficult the year has been for them, and these are things that a lot of different managers have discussed over time. But this is what he said about the way they play, since we've been very philosophical today. Our preparation, our commitment to the way we play, our willingness to go on the field and play, to be a brave team that plays football, that pushes forward, that takes chances and plays a fast tempo, this is what we're about. And so that's the only thing that anybody's really thinking about and talking about at the moment. On the other side, for Tigres, you've got 2 big doubts. Andre Pierre Gignac and Javier Aquino, both a little skeptical and if they're going to be able to play tonight. Gignac has been battling injuries but has been playing. Aquino came out of the semifinal injured. They don't know, at least yesterday, Tuca Ferretti did not know if he would be able to count on those guys. What are you thinking about this one tonight? Where's your head at about how this goes?
I think it's Tigres in regulation. I think that they can expose what we've known at the back for LAFC. I think that this is, Tigres to me has been the favorite when we got into the semis, and they're a favorite in juice boxes now. I think it's probably going to be something like 2-1, maybe 3-2, depending on if Vela continues what we've seen from him recently. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game, but I think it's going to be in regulation. I think Tigres gets it.
Tigres is the favorite, and they should be. I think they're a better overall team. I do worry about LAFC's defense. Shiva asked, I think Shiva was specifically asking about this season, how can LAFC do well here but not in MLS? I think they're finally healthy. Missing Vela, as we've talked about here in Atlanta with Joseph Martinez out, when you have a focal point like that and you miss them, you're constantly struggling. You can still find ways to get results. You can still find ways to play well, but you're never as good as you would be if you had that player. They had other injuries too, and I think just some teams were more affected by 2020 than others, and LAFC was one. And Bradley's kind of hinted at it. I don't know what else was going on behind the scenes. I also do think that they did not do themselves any favors with the way they constructed the team, and they finally added an extra center back, and that's helped a lot with Murillo. Murillo gives them somebody solid to play next to Eddie Segura. It's much better than Dejan Jakovic was there.
Yes.
It allows you to play Blackman at right back, and you've got Palacios at left back, so that defense is coherent now. You lost Atuesta for a portion of the season. You don't have him tonight. You do have talent in Mark Anthony Kaye and Latif Blessing, in Cifuentes, in Janela. You've got talent there, but you don't have another Atuesta straight away. That's going to be the hardest thing for them tonight. Musovski's been okay up top. I was skeptical of that. He's been okay. It's definitely better for Vela to play out wide than to play as a 9. I think that's why Bradley's gone with it. He'd rather have Musovski in than Brian Rodriguez and moving Vela to the middle. I think they're better this way. Musovski puts in a lot of that work that is critical. In this tournament, Vermeer's been all right. He hasn't had any howlers yet.
Yeah.
So they're solid. But I think when you look at the overall quality of Tigres, they're just a better team. Not by a ton. It should be a really good match, and the intensity should be great. It's a final. But I think Tigres comes in as the favorite. If you're LAFC, obviously you got to deal with Gignac. Eddie Segura is going to have a huge day. Vermeer's going to have to make a couple of big saves. It just will. It's just the way the game goes. And Vela's got to be on one.
Yep.
He's the kind of player, look, if he's on one and he can get into that space, then he can carry you. You've got to give him those opportunities. If it's not there for him, then you're going to have to really work harder. But if he can be on one for at least a big segment of the game, then it's huge. It's 10 o'clock tonight, guys. There's been questions about that. I've seen it reported all over the place, too. MLS has it at 10 o'clock, FS2 and 2-day NA. I don't know why it's on FS2 rather than FS1. I don't know if it's college basketball tonight or what. That's disappointing. Fox has just been picking up the world feed for these things, though, too. They haven't put any extra production into it. I wish they had done more with it. I think maybe with LAFC getting to this point, they probably wish that they had. Live Sports TV has it at 8 o'clock. Now I need to double check and check my TV guide and see what it says. Because I had seen 8 earlier, and then I've seen 10 more consistently. So let's go to 2-day NA, and let's see what they have. Because they probably have like 2 hours of pregame as well, because they are doing this upright.
FS1 has college basketball at 7 and 9 tonight.
Yeah, that's what I figured. 9:55 is what they have for 2-day NA. So they've got their normal talking head shows, and then Football Central at 9 o'clock leading into the game at a 9:55 start time is what the broadcast is on 2-day NA. So 10 o'clock. Yeah, look, as we've said many, many times, I don't think people will take the CONCACAF Champions League as seriously until it is presented in the same way in English as it is in Spanish.
Yep.
For the people who are ready to take it seriously, it is there for you to take seriously. And if that means watching stuff in Spanish and working at it, it's worth it. Because these are great matches, and this is a great competition, and it's going to only grow bigger. That's the thing for me, is I think we're only starting to scratch the surface of what this competition can really, truly be now that MLS teams are playing toe-to-toe with the Mexican teams. I mean, it's almost an even split since 2018 in terms of the results.
Tafka says, it's 2020, LAFC wins tonight, gets the first Club World Cup berth, which will please and upset me in equal parts.
It doesn't upset me. I understand that as a fan. I totally get that, because there is a rivalry. I don't even know if that's the right word, like between Atlanta and LAFC. I think there's constantly comparison between the two.
Yeah.
And, you'd love to be the first to win the Champions League. DC and the LA Galaxy will wave around their CONCACAF Cups as they should. The competition had a different name at that time. It honestly isn't that different than it's no different than the way it's being conducted this year because of necessity. Not that different than how it's being conducted in general as a knockout tournament, even though it's over 2 legs. The CONCACAF Cup accomplishment of DC in 98 and of the LA Galaxy in 2000 are both big. That was the last time that you've won a CONCACAF tournament. It's 2020. It's 20 years. It's been rebranded as the league. It's a big deal. If they win, it's a big deal for the league as a whole. It's a big deal for everybody involved in the league. Being the first one, yippee. I mean, does it really matter in 10 years after it's a more even tournament? Not really, I don't think. Do you wish that your team was the first? Sure, but doesn't really matter. I'm not saying go root for LAFC. If you don't like LAFC, don't root for them. But it is a big thing for the league if LAFC wins it tonight. There's no negatives to it outside of LAFC fans being very, very proud of their team and probably saying a lot of things. And probably some national media continuing to jump up and down on the LAFC trampoline. And that's okay. Doesn't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things. It can be annoying. Don't get me wrong. But if they win and they beat 4 Liga MX teams to do it, they deserve to jump up and down on that trampoline. Anybody associated with LAFC deserves to pound their chests as much as they want to. If they beat 4 Mexican teams to win the CONCACAF Champions League in this crazy year, they should be very proud of the accomplishment if they can pull that off.
Line has shifted once again back to its original points in the Christmas candy numbers. Tigres is back to about a plus 120 in the composite. LAFC is almost at a plus 200, and your draw is just north of plus 250.
I just think Tigres is the clear favorite here. Not by a ton, but I just think they are the favorite in this. I do think it'll be close no matter what. I don't expect a blowout. I think LAFC has shown you that even if they are outmatched a little bit here, they'll be competitive. If they give up a goal, they're not going to fall behind and fall apart and all those things. They'll bounce back. I just think Tigres and Gignac just a little bit too much for them. That's all. Last times you've had MLS clubs in the final for CONCACAF. The first time in the CONCACAF Champions League you had one was 2011, Real Salt Lake and Monterrey. It is definitely one to go back and watch if you get a chance to. MLS had a great piece on the teams that have made the final, and there was an old video piece about the run for RSL against Monterrey. That was a really good RSL team. That era of Real Salt Lake where they won MLS Cup in 2009, got to the CONCACAF final in 2011, got back to MLS Cup in 2013 and lost in the final to Sporting Kansas City. That's why people thought Jason Kreis was going to be the next great American manager. Great run, great team, really built well. At the heart of it, a guy who announced his retirement yesterday, Kyle Beckerman. One of the best holding midfielders in American soccer history. And he doesn't get enough credit because he didn't play a ton for the national team. Biggest mistake Jurgen Klinsmann ever made during his time with the national team, and there's a lot to choose from, not starting Kyle Beckerman against Belgium in the round of 16 in 2014. One of the dumbest things I have ever seen. That team with Beckerman playing in that role was okay. Like, he made it okay. He made it work. Great compliment to Michael Bradley, because that was a time, too, that Michael Bradley was a little bit more of an 8. He could step forward and do some of the things that he did at a younger age. Good at picking off passes, good at picking his spots to go forward, good at contributing to the attack. Beckerman gave him the platform to do that. They complemented each other so well in that competition. And then you went to Jeff Cameron in the round of 16, and you had to have a record-setting performance by your goalkeeper to keep you in it. Yeah, those things are connected. And if you were worried about Beckerman's fitness to be able to get there, first off, Kyle Beckerman's still incredibly fit. He's not retiring due to fitness. But then maybe you should have managed his minutes against Germany, and maybe you should have managed the Portugal game before that and not blown it and got the 3 points, and in the Germany game, you could have rotated the squad. And then you could have had your best team on the field, fully fresh, fully ready to go against Belgium, but you mismanaged the tournament because you got scared. Anyway, Kyle Beckerman. Outstanding defensive midfielder. Seriously, one of the best. Chris Armas is in that conversation. Bradley, Jermaine Jones, different kinds of players, but they're in the conversation. Kyle Beckerman in MLS is, in my opinion, the number 6 in the best ever team for league history. He's that guy for me. So it is a good time to go back and look at that Real Salt Lake team where he was such a critical part of it. And they got to the final, and they ended up, they got a draw in the first leg in Mexico and then lost it at home. Wild game. I always remember watching that. I was really hoping RSL could get that one done. They couldn't. Montreal got to the Champions League final in 2015. They couldn't quite get it done. Made it difficult, but Club America ended up winning 5-3 on aggregate, and we know the Toronto run from 2018 where Greg Vanney was keeping that team together with, he didn't even have duct tape to work with. I mean, he had like that cheap dollar store, like clear tape that doesn't even have a name, some generic brand that falls apart when you breathe on it too
gum
hard.
And glue.
He had that stuff, like rolls and rolls of it. He had chewing gum like MacGyver and like not even, Gorilla Glue. It was like the Elmer's, like garbage stuff and trying to make a defense work out of it. And he got him to the final. He got him to penalties, and they could not get it done over Matias Almeida. And it was disappointing. So you've had 3 times that you've been close. First off, you need to get to more finals. Like, that's the only 3. That's not good. Second, you got to get it done. Tonight, 1 game. You don't have to play it in Mexico. You don't have to go to that difficult stadium to play in Tigres. You have 1 game. LAFC needs to get it done here. It'd be huge for the league. They are the underdog. If I was putting something important on it, I would have to go with Tigres. But yeah, I'm hoping LAFC wins it.
Yeah, numbers on Beckerman: 498 regular season matches played, 461 starts, 41,161 minutes played. And he started with Miami Fusion back in 2000.
Yep. He was the last player to play for Miami Fusion that was still in the league.
58 appearances for the U.S., multiple appearances for the U.S. and other competitions. Yeah, definitely right there. When you're having that discussion, you better be right there as 1A. That's all I can say.
All right, Austin FC keeps on adding players. They have signed a player from Club Guarani. Rodney Redis came from there. They loaned him back. Cecilio Dominguez, they signed. They loaned him to Guarani, so they must have liked what they've seen. They have signed Johan Romagna, who is a 22-year-old center back, played for Guarani in Copa Libertadores and in league play in Paraguay and Colombia. He is Colombian, and that's a young center back you're bringing into the league with a good pedigree. I mean, we'll have to see how he fits, but that's an interesting signing. You don't see as many expansion teams go and get young South American defenders to bring in. And you're bringing in somebody with Libertadores experience. Not bad. Not bad at all. I still really like what Austin's doing.
Yeah.
They got it done with Hector Jimenez. He's signed to them now. Long time with the Columbus Crew. He's been part of 3 MLS Cups. Good veteran defender to add to that group. Now you've got your other center back, and now if you are Austin FC, you've got a back line. That's the crazy thing about it is teams so often put the back line in the way they construct themselves, on the back burner. You've got Ben Sweat, you've got Julio Cascante, now you've got Romagna, you've got Nick Lima, you've got Jimenez as a reserve. Not bad. Goalkeeper, still got to sort out. You got Alexander Ring as your 6. Okay. So the spine is in pretty good shape. Is Danny Houston the guy up top to really get you the goals you need? I don't know. I'm not sure. And you could probably look at a 10. But they've done a really good job. They have done a really, really good job. I'm so impressed with what Austin FC is doing so far.
Yep, digging what they've done. And all right, so I've seen this part of the build. I want to see where you're going to continue to go next.
Don't start with your skepticism.
Hey.
I've seen this, and now I want to see the...
No.
Oh, okay.
I've seen promise. I want to see you build on it. I like what I'm seeing at the back.
That's okay.
I want to see what you want to do with the keeper. Yeah, I like the idea of Danny Houston. So it's like, all right, keep going. Let's see what you got next. That's all I'm saying.
Never want to give the credit.
I ain't crapping on the Verde.
You kind of did.
No.
Well, it needs more.
Yeah, you need somebody between the sticks.
Okay.
Who you got in mind?
Were you yelling about this when Nashville added Joe Willis?
No.
You loved Joe Willis.
I understand. I mean,
You thought it was a great signing.
Hey, guy with MLS experience. I didn't think that I was going to get what we got out of Willis, but hey,
That's
regular
what I'm getting.
reps and you're seeing the evolution.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, Brady Scott's young. It's a big ask for him, but Brian Rowe is not going to earn headlines all over the world if you sign him. I think he's a good signing. Yeah. I want to make that clear. Like, you don't have to go get a world-class goalkeeper to make this work. No. That's not the need here.
Give me somebody solid. I just want to see. I'm looking. It's like, you got names. I want more names. I want to see who else is as part of this roster.
Man, like, give them a minute. They've got like 15, 16 guys already.
Gotta go. Let's go. More.
No, don't gotta go. Don't be that guy.
Gotta go. Let's go.
Yeah, you just gotta add names. Just add names. It'll all be okay. You gotta show me you're doing something. They've got a good squad, man. McConaughey's gonna come after you. I'm telling you.
That is actually a planned road trip if we are to that point this year. If Atlanta United is playing in Austin, the boss has already said we're going.
All right.
Kyle Beckerman would have worked it in Austin. If Austin had come along sooner, I think he would have really worked out well there. Yeah. A couple more thoughts on Beckerman from the Twitch pitch. Yes, Kessie, he is no longer suspended after his outburst at MLS's back. Beckerman could get a little fired up. Jason Nix missed his white boy dreads. He had the serious dreads going. Those things got out of hand. Badger says Beckerman, also a nice guy, went to see RSL and Charleston in the Open Cup. RSL had to come from behind to win. USMNT played a World Cup qualifier a few days later at Rio Tinto, stayed at the same hotel as the USMNT. Beckerman was one of the few players who would talk to them. Very cool. Yeah, I've heard always good things about Beckerman. Teammates seem to love him, just such a big part of that group. And, not a flashy guy, just except for the dreads. I mean, just, did his business and was really good at doing it. Better dreads, Kyle Beckerman or Breck Shea?
Ooh.
That's not even a question. It's Kyle Beckerman. There's no question about that. Sorry, Breck. It's not even a question. The commitment from Beckerman.
I wonder at its peak.
It's easy. It's Kyle Beckerman.
I wonder at its peak how long Kyle Beckerman had that head of hair at peak dreads, how long that head of hair had been there without being cut or styled.
We'll go back and look at it. I mean, you can follow the evolution. I think it was like 2007 until he cut it, so over a decade.
Wow. That's strong. Mm-hmm. That is strong. We have more stuff on the Twitters. You want to go?
What do we got on the Twitters?
Festival of Stepovers says, excited about how we looked last week. Any ideas where Herrera might end up? Should we be sad we missed out on him? And then a public service announcement. Early voting today at MBS, today, tomorrow, and after Christmas for Fulton County residents.
Should we be sad that you got Gabriel Heinze and you missed out on Miguel Herrera?
No.
That's my answer. Herrera's fun. Herrera's jolly. Herrera will also get you into some things that you probably don't want to get into, like punching journalists and getting popped in the eye by opposing assistant managers who got suspended. For some reason, that's become a thing. Like, I'll make it clear, Ante Razov was completely in the wrong, and 4 games for him is 100% correct. Yep. Just because you don't like Miguel Herrera or you didn't like Club America's tactics doesn't mean he should get popped in the eye. He got suspended too, and you could have argued he needed more than 4 games. That's fine. Herrera, when you look now at the things that have been said about Heinze, the similarities between Heinze and De Boer and Tata in terms of the way they see the game, Herrera would not have fit that. Herrera is a guy who can come in and manage superstars. He's a guy who can come in and motivate. He's not going to come in and further an idea of the way you play the game. He's gotten better, and I've seen this argument going around in Liga MX circles that tactically he's improved over the years, and I would agree. Like, pretty generic up to his run with Mexico and winning the Gold Cup and then getting fired for punching a journalist. When he went to Tijuana, you started to see a little more variety in the way he would play. You saw different shapes. You saw a little more of a focus on playing good soccer, not just having superstars and winning games because of talent. And that continued on to Club America. But it's night and day when you're talking about soccer ideals between the two. It's just night and day. And you're in a much better position with Gabriel Heinze than you would have been with Miguel Herrera. What's the argument for Herrera outside of the fact he's been in this continent, he's played and managed teams in CONCACAF, and he has won things in CONCACAF? There really isn't one. When you look at the work on the field, no question, and Heinze's the better fit.
Tafka with a couple of points this morning. He says that Gabriel's hiring is a good omen. He and his wife chose Gabriel for a name if they have a son.
Oh, well, there you go. Very, very cool.
And then Tafka also said that when it came to having on-field translation, have Justin chug 5 Red Bulls before he provides on-field translation to practice.
Yeah, no, you need something different because you need it coming from a coaching mentality. And that's not a knock on Justin. It's just Justin's not a coach. You need a coach. You had Rodrigo Rios with Tata a lot at the early portion of training camp in 2017 because he's a coach. He's going to hear what Tata's saying and understand the full context as a coach and be able to put it into coach speak. Yeah. That's very important. So it's going to be necessary. But again, it's not as big of a deal as you might think. You can bridge that gap pretty quick, especially from a coaching perspective, because in those moments on the field, you're not going into a dissertation on something. You're going to do that in video analysis. You're going to do that in meeting rooms, and yes, that's where it's going to be critical for translation to get the full context. But on the field, you're going to be able to bridge that gap pretty well, I think.
I Pity the Fool wanted to know about Andrew Gutmann and how he fits in.
As a left back who's active and can get forward. Bellow, he's going to play in the U20 World Cup, I would assume, which will take him out of Atlanta for around a month, maybe 6 weeks, maybe up to 8. You need somebody who can fill in on that spot. Anton Walks can play that spot, but as more of an attacking left back, which is what you're going to be looking for here. Gutmann's a better fit. He's just a more comfortable fit. So you still got to get a deal done with Celtic. At a minimum, you have his rights. If Celtic doesn't want to do business with you, then fine. He is a Celtic player, and he's under contract there. They'll have to figure out what they do. He will come back to MLS at some point. He's an American guy. So you have his rights. You'll get something for them. But I think he's a good fit if you can get the deal done with Celtic, and I would be shocked if they were asking for anything exorbitant because I don't think they have plans for him right now.
In the Brian Reynolds / transfers discussion, with MLS outgoing transfers becoming a far more common thing, Tafka wanted to know, do we see MLS clubs instigating release clauses more often to ensure the market is not undervalued or depreciated? You can see the lure of Europe creating club / player rifts without protection, or do they already exist and we just don't know about them?
Okay, hold on. Tafka's yelling at me first because I did not find the comedy or sarcasm of what he was saying about the 5 Red Bulls. I wasn't talking about the 5 Red Bulls, man. I'm just saying, you need a specific kind of person translating because not everybody is seeing your tweet either. So, got to remember, we're translating from John reading something, then I'm trying to make sense of it, and then people are going to listen to this later and they're not going to see your tweet. I got you, buddy. It's all good. In terms of the transfer stuff, it's hard to say because it's changing so fast. A player like Brian Reynolds would not be getting the kinds of offers that are being thrown around a year ago, maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So you just have to adapt. And then you have to adapt to the COVID world as well. So there's a lot of feeling this out. I think the biggest thing for me where the development is this. Oh boy, hold on. Darren Eels is tweeting.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Sorry, Tofka. Sorry, Tofka. You're going to have to wait. Rose, sheep, key, microphone. Coming back. He writes, ... coming back. 5 stripes, don't stop. That is Darren Neal's tweet from 30 seconds ago. That's interesting. I'm intrigued. John, do you have any guesses? Because you're really good at this.
Rose, sheep, key, and a microphone. I'm really good at these? Where did you get that notion?
That was sarcasm, like Tofka does.
I was going to say, like, wait a minute.
That was what Tofka does.
Let's see.
I just want to see if you can figure it out.
I mean, the mic, the microphone, is that Mikey Ambrose? If it's coming back.
Did somebody tell you that? Are you seeing that?
No, it's like I'm looking at the microphone, and the only thing I could think of, since Mikey is on the market,
he is a free agent
and coming back. So for me, it would be, but where Rose sheep, red wool, red key. Oh, I'm so awful at these.
A lot of people are on the Mikey Ambrose train. And it's funny, we were just talking about Andrew Gutmann. Maybe that means you have not been able to get a deal done with Celtic. Maybe it means you are going to flip his rights. Maybe you're just holding on to his rights. If it's Mikey, who again is available, that's your left back
going
cover.
Backwards. Because if you go from right to left, Mike Key. Got it. All right, Mike Key. Okay, there we go. Right to left. Have to read that way. Mikey Ambrose. Okay.
We'll see with the announcement, but that is, I believe, pretty good work there, John.
Okay, just reading it in reverse. Got it. Okay. Yay!
That might be the best you've done. Did Ricky Ricardo help you?
No, because it's like I went Mike, and then I started. I looked at it that way, and I'm like Mike, and then Mike Key, and then it's like Mike Key. But where's the am with the sheep?
Lamb.
Oh, Mikey. Lamb. Okay. Because if it's a sheep emoji, that was what was throwing me. Okay. So Mikey, Mike Key, Lamb, Bros. Okay. Yay!
All right, we'll see when this gets announced. Usually it's pretty quick, so we'll hang out for a little while. Very interesting. Let me look at something while I can, because I don't think I'd gotten that far in building out my master list. So let's look back at Miami and their roster for 2020 and see what kind of spot he took up. He took up a supplemental spot. Tesco says that's a ram, by the way. I think it says it's a sheep emoji.
Yeah, it's a sheep emoji if you put your cursor over it.
Yeah, it just says sheep. That's what threw everybody off. But Mikey was in a supplemental spot in Miami, which, again, when you look at these situations, that's off cap. That's not taking up a cap spot. That's not taking up a senior roster spot. That's really attractive. Because you've got 2 senior roster spots, you've got 2 international slots. Mike, you would not be taking up a international slot either. That gives you good cover. And you picked up Gutmann, like I said, he's not going to play outside of MLS forever. If you have his rights in MLS and he's going to come back, somebody's going to have to come deal with you. So, good. And if you add Ambrose, look, we've seen him play in Tata's system. We saw him play in Frank's system. So a lot of the things he was asked to do, he gets forward well. He's good in the attacking half. He had a great performance in the playoff match against Philadelphia, his last performance for Atlanta. Yeah, Mikey's a good addition, and he knows he's been here before, so it's an easy adjustment for him. Now we're having arguments about the actual makeup of the emoji. It's a male sheep with the horns. That's a ram. That's what Colonel says. I just went over what the emoji said. Like, I wasn't even getting into anything else. Relax, folks. Man, craziness. These things always bring people out. People get riled up. Good job, Darren. Seems like people got this one, though. And
unless people are sitting there, and I know that it's a sheep emoji, but unless people are sitting there going, Mikey Ram Rose, and that's what they're coming up with.
I was just reading it from left to right and what the emoji said. That's all I read.
And that's all I was doing initially, and then I went backwards, and I'm like,
Lots of conversation in the Twitch pitch. I will let you guys all work to figure this out. Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe assumption. I think everybody's on this one, it seems like. And, yeah, as we said, like, look, if he's a supplemental guy on the roster, that's great for your cap. So you take advantage of it and you run. We will, as we're getting close to wrapping up for the day, we'll wait till this gets announced. 11 o'clock, I think, is normally when these things go. Yeah, it's pretty much the bottom of the hour or the top of the hour, depending on when Darren tweets. So, other stuff in the MLS world as we await an announcement. Stage 2 of the re-entry draft is this afternoon. Oh, this is weird. Joe Corona, who was picked in the expansion draft by Austin, this is from Tom Bogert of MLSsoccer.com, he has not opted out of the re-entry draft. So Austin picked him up, but he was in that re-entry stage, and they could negotiate with him because in the expansion draft, when you picked somebody who was a free agent or whatever, you had a negotiating period. Well, he hasn't opted out, so they haven't come to a deal yet. So they could end up losing him. Because they technically don't have him yet. They don't have him under contract. Now, if you pick somebody here... Oh, Exodus, thank you for subscribing. We appreciate it. Now Jason Nix is yelling Bellow's gone because of the potential rumors. And, oh, boy, here we go. All the madness. I'm not believing the account with 600 followers that now has secret sources. Anyway, Joe Corona could end up going in this re-entry draft. Somebody else could grab his rights because Austin has not locked him down to a contract yet. That will be an interesting one to keep an eye on. What else have we got today? No Yunus Musa in the starting 11 for Valencia to face Sevilla. He left the match on Saturday early with a muscle injury, so not a shock there. Jason Nix is kidding because he loves. Just making sure. Not reading that sarcasm font again. Tofka will yell at me again.
Well, Tofka needs to yell at me if I'm just reading it straight and not looking at hashtag sarcasm font.
That's what throws me sometimes too, because I miss the sarcasm element.
Well, and I admit that I'm a very literal person. Yeah. Unless I catch it immediately, I'm going to read it as is, because I can't register sarcasm font, unless it's registered as such.
Yes, and I'm hearing it secondhand. So.
I forgot to ask. How was the Grant Wall interview?
Well, you can listen to it.
I know, but without spoiling the interview, how was it?
It was excellent. Grant reached out, and good to know. He knows what's going on with soccer down here, and it was going to be the last episode of the Freddie Adu series. That's out today, but they've added a 7th episode when Freddie signed to play in Sweden. So there will be one more episode after the holidays. Talked a lot about just how everything kind of came together. Other projects Grant is working on or would like to work on. He's kind of found a really cool niche with amplifying modern history in American soccer. I know modern history sounds weird, but the Beckham Experiment book, which is highly recommended if you haven't read it, because it's just a great moment in time with where MLS was at that stage. Freddie was right before that, and one of the things we talked about was those two moves, Freddie Adu 2004, and all the buzz it created, then Beckham in 2007, those are the two things that really pushed MLS forward. So it was a fun conversation. We talked for about 30 minutes. So that's available on your podcatchers right now. You can go back and check it out. And make sure you go back and check out all 6 episodes of the Freddie Adu documentary podcast that Grant Wall has been releasing.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I saw that came up yesterday. I knew it was happening, but I wanted to ask just what it was like to go over this for something that has been catching the series has been getting a lot of attention, and so it was good for you to catch up with Grant.
Yeah, very, very cool. Katie Weaver has figured out how to subscribe with Amazon Prime. Very, very cool. It took me a second too to figure out how. So that
how do you
goes.
subscribe with Amazon Prime?
You go do it yourself. You go do it yourself and figure it out. It's called Google, John. Everybody can figure this out because I'm not going to spend a whole day on going back through it because I had to sort through it and figure it out, and I eventually sorted it out for myself. So for everybody who is a new subscriber and you want to get into our Discord, it should catch up, but send us a message or send me a message at Longshoe on Twitter. Send us a message at Soccer Down Here on Twitter. You can email us soccerdownhere@gmail.com. We'll send you a link to make sure you get in because the Discord is for our Twitch subscribers. The Discord is for our Patreon members as well. It's kind of like a clubhouse, I guess. This is the best way to put it. Even John figured it out, so it's not like crazy tech that you got to be ready to deal with.
You don't know how long it took me.
I don't even want to know because it wasn't that complicated. But yeah, if you have Amazon Prime and you watch on Twitch, you can subscribe to us on Twitch using your Amazon Prime, and it's not too complicated. So do a quick search. I believe you have to do it through the website on Twitch and through Amazon. You have to link them and all that. It's not too difficult. It's absolutely doable.
Okay. Did you see the rumors? You know, we were talking about LAFC and Tigres. Did you see the rumors put up by El Futbolero that one on El Futbolero that Tigres might be interested in Carlos Vela, and then 2 on ESPN where they said that Club America would be interested in Carlos Vela?
Where have you been, John? The Club America Carlos Vela stuff's been going on for a while. I'm a little skeptical of El Futbolero because sometimes they seem to go with some things that are tabloidish in nature. The Club America talk was going on before the match with LAFC. That had already popped up in Mexican media to the fact that Carlos Vela's brother was like, yeah, well, after the match, like, yeah, they do need a player like Carlos Vela. The Tigres one I have not heard from anything credible. I haven't seen that. But the Club America one, well, yeah, that's what they do. They go out and they sign the biggest and best players. And Carlos Vela, pretty good.
Yeah. El Futbolero was saying that Tigres is looking at both Latif Blessing and Carlos Vela, and it could be coming down to a possible trade of Vela for Gignac.
That's madness. I'm not buying that. That feels goofy. Futbolero is not in the tier 1 of sources. Just not. Clayton Paul says, do you think Vela would leave LAFC? If the money's right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how he feels about all this stuff. But if the money's right, it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Vela's 29, 30 now?
30, I think.
Yeah, you get a chance to play in Mexico for the first time at one of the biggest clubs and get paid handsomely to do it, yeah, I think he would do it. I mean, he's been at LAFC for 3 years now. They haven't won MLS Cup. If they win CONCACAF, would he be interested in leaving? He hasn't really said anything. It's been a lot of like external kind of talk about him leaving. So I don't know how much stock to put into it, but could I see it happening? Yes, I absolutely could.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're held in such high regard both by your national team and by an entire country, then to have the opportunity to go back and play in your home country, absolutely.
And, yeah, I'm with Mataflo here. I'm not buying Gignac for Vela straight up in a trade. Like, I'm not buying that either way. I don't know if either side would want to do that deal. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. El Futbolero was claiming local press were saying that was an option, but not linking to said article that claimed local press were saying the trade.
That is the Mikey Ambrose return music. Gwen's excited. Mikey's back in Atlanta. Free agent signing. Free agent signing. Played with Miami last year, was here in 17, 18, and 19. Carlos Bocanegra, Mikey is an MLS veteran who has proven to be a reliable and versatile defender, and we're pleased to welcome him back to our club. We know we'll be able to count on his experience and leadership to give us additional competition in our back line. 20 appearances over those 3 seasons with MLS, 2 postseason appearances in Atlanta. Yeah, I think it's a good addition.
Yeah.
Because of what he does going forward. Because when you look at the way that Gabriel Heinze wants to play, you want those outside backs to be able to push up very high and get involved in the attack. Good left foot on Mikey Ambrose. Good motor on Mikey Ambrose in terms of dropping to cover. I think the style of play suits him really, really well. It's why they looked at him with Tata Martino. I think with Heinze being even more aggressive, it suits Mikey even more. He's a technical player. He's got a great left foot. You get him, again, if you get him in a supplemental roster spot, which he was in last season with Miami, can't really hate that, can you?
Mm-mm.
Good piece. Good piece. Yeah. Chris Ashley excited. Lots of people are excited. Clayton Poss has made the playoffs every year with Mikey. It's true. Mikey leaves, you don't make the playoffs. Mikey's back, you should make the playoffs. Done. All good.
Done.
And John figured it out kind of quick.
Well, but once again, it's being left-handed and looking at things in reverse.
Ah, well, there you go. Whatever it takes, John.
And it didn't take the entire show for it to happen either.
It did not. It was pretty quick. Less than 5 minutes. That's impressive.
Yeah. Remember this date, because it may not happen again.
That's also true.
See? I know how things are wired here, sir.
I'm just saying. That's also true. It kind of is. Looks like Dallas has got some signings coming today. They did announce the center back from Ibar yesterday, Martinez, and they are teasing more. They have another player that had been announced by their club but had not been announced by Dallas yet. So I'm not expecting a surprise from Dallas, but I think it's just cleaning everything up. Mazzano wants to know if we can bring back Leandro Gonzalez-Perez. Where would he play?
Yeah.
Jason Nix was working on trying to fit him into the emoji mishmash. You'd have to move pieces out because I don't know where he would play. And the way, and this is, again, back to the way the style is going to change a little bit, I think it suits him less now than it did before. Because you're going to be defending 1v1 and in space far more. And I think if your center backs are Franco Escobar and Miles Robinson, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Meza, I think, can do it. It's going to put him in some tough spots at times. I don't know if LGP has the pace to fit into the way that they're going to play. I don't. I think Meza's got more pace than Leandro, to be perfectly honest. Now, I think the elements that LGP would be a good fit would be that big switch, the switch of the point of attack. That's great, and he's excellent at that, and that's a huge element too. But the defending side, I think, as the game would get stretched, especially in 19, where we did see some things break down, I thought that was where he got exposed at times and struggled at times. So I'm wondering if it is Escobar and Robinson as your two center backs. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean your back four is probably Bellow, Miles, Franco, Lennon on the right.
Yes, and now everybody's picking former Atlanta United players, hoping they come back. That's funny. Y'all are going to...
Clint Irwin?
Yes, everybody's begging for Atlanta United legend Clint Irwin to come back. I don't think he was ever here to come back to. So his rights were just here for a minute. He was here on paper. I get it. I understand. And I think a lot of it is with a wink wink. But, yeah, you have to move on at times. And the way this team's going to play is definitely a move on kind of thing. It's going to be different than it was before. So not everybody from the past fits. It's just the way you progress. It's the way you move forward. And this team is definitely moving forward. We'll be talking a lot about philosophy and styles of play and game ideas and stuff like that as we go. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about it. So as questions pop up, think about them. Throw them into our Discord if you are a member or about to be a member. You can tweet them at us at Soccer Down Here. You can email them to us, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. Whatever y'all want to get into during this offseason, we will be getting into it. We'll have plenty of rumors to bide the time as well. We'll have plenty of things to talk about. But, yes, I can already see that is going to be a big conversation point is philosophy and kind of where that goes. So that's going to be fun. Tonight in the Discord, it will be a watch-along of LAFC and Tigres. ConcaChampions. I think it'll be a really fun final. Two teams that generally want to play. Two teams that I don't think are going to come in and park buses. You've got superstars in Gignac and Phaelo. It'll be a great advertisement for the CCL and what this tournament is and the level between these two leagues. I think Tigres edges it 2-1, but I think it'll be a really fun ride. So we'll be talking about it in Discord tonight. If you're a member, please do that with us. If you are a subscriber, a new subscriber, as some of you have figured things out, send me a message if you don't get the invite. It is supposed to automatically update and send out those invites to the Discord. If it does not, shoot me a message, and we'll get you taken care of ahead of the game. Looks like it'll be right at 10 o'clock for kickoff. The broadcast time on 2Day NA is 9:55. I would believe FS2 is going to be the same. That would be setting up for a kickoff right at 10 o'clock or just after 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
We got Jason Nix a 2-1 Tigres win. Sean goes 4-3 LAFC. Dr. D goes 4-3 LAFC. Lots of chaos, lots of goals predicted. I think it'll be lots of fun to watch. LAFC fans will not be thinking it's fun because it'll be very tense. And neutrals, I think, will definitely enjoy it. J-Dub goes LAFC 2-1. We'll get into more of that tonight, and then we'll talk about all of it tomorrow on the show for a Wall Pass Wednesday. Mike Conti will be joining us tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the interaction. Thanks for all the sarcasm, Tafka. Thanks for all of it. We'll try to get that sarcasm font working on our laptops and our computers. We'll do our best for tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.